Hey, how you doing? Appreciate you for tuning in. Got another video for you. So, this past weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, doubleheaders each day, we had Super Wildcard Weekend. Now, it was supposed to be two on Saturday, three Sunday, one Monday, but the Buffalo game had to get pushed because of the weather. We already know that. But looking at Wildcard Weekend, I feel like there's three storylines coming out of that I want to touch on. These three right here next to me. Detroit. First one I want to touch on the Lions. First time in several years they hosted a playoff game. Detroit was rocking Ford Field. You know, they had Calvin Johnson there, Barry Sanders, you get Eminem there. So, it was going to be interesting to see how they were going to come out would the emotions get to them. Especially looking across the sideline, you had Matt Stafford with his Rams back in Detroit. So give Detroit a lot of credit. This was like a culmination of the turnaround that's gone on with Jared Goff and Dan Campbell. Gotta give him a lot of credit as well. During the regular season, he caught a little bit of flack for the Cowboys game, going for two and all that. But Dan Campbell's an aggressive guy, and the team seems to respond to it, so I'm not going to be mad about that. But, they got the win 24-23. A little bit of controversy there at the end. Was it a PI on with Puka? Things like that happen. But it doesn't take away from what Detroit has done and what they hopefully can continue to do this upcoming weekend in the divisional round playoffs, where they will go up against the Bucks. We'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, so shout out to Detroit. They will have another home game against the Bucks. So I'm assuming the crowd's going to show out again, probably be just as loud as they were. I'm here for it. Second one, Jordan Love. Look, this was probably the game that nobody saw coming. The Packers up against the Cowboys. The score's 48-32, but the game wasn't even that close because at one point the Packers had a 27-0 lead, and were having their way with that Cowboys team and that Micah Parsons, Steph Gilmore defense. Like, Love was finding open receivers, middle of the field, downfield all day. While the Cowboys, we'll talk about in a little bit as well, had their issues, which probably should have seen that coming, but like I said, we'll talk about that later. This is more about Jordan Love doing what Aaron Rodgers couldn't do last season, get the Packers to the postseason, and Jordan Love got a win in the postseason, which is going to raise an interesting question about what do the Packers do with him in terms of a contract, because he'll be going into his fourth season, I believe. And you obviously know he'll have the fifth-year option coming up, or will Green Bay, turn around, try to extend him now, where you could probably get him for less and hope what you saw against Dallas is what's to come and not necessarily a fluke performance. Isaiah have another opportunity going up against the Niners team this week, where if the Packers are able to do that, knock off the Niners, Jordan Love will make himself a boatload of money. But yeah, gotta definitely shout out Green Bay for their performance. And then lastly, CJ Stroud. I liked the Texans going into the playoffs. Didn't like the fact that they had to face the Browns, who I was high on as well. With their defense, how good it was going into the season, the kind of run Joe Flacco was on. Throw all that out the window, because CJ Stroud and that Texans team beat the Browns handedly, 45-14. Some might say it was in Houston, kind of expected. Yes, but when you have young teams who do like a worst to first type of thing as Houston did this year, you never knew what you were going to get from them in a playoff setting. That's much different than the regular season, where they battled back, chased down the Jaguars, and then ended up winning that AFC South division. But CJ Stroud, let me just give you his numbers really quickly. 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. What else can you ask of your rookie quarterback, right? And this further proves what I was saying all along. Stroud should have gone number 1 because he's a better quarterback. I guess you have to say right now because you don't know what's going to happen 5 years down the line. But you compare C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young this year, it's C.J. Stroud by a mile. Yes, I know both situations are different because Carolina had a lot of turmoil in terms of front office, coaching, the roster construction. Houston is in a better situation. They have DeMeco Ryans, who's done a remarkable job in his first season. So those are the 3 I wanted to shout out. Honorable mention would have been the Bucs and Baker Mayfield, who's another team that I've been kind of high on second half of the season. I also, if you saw me over on Sports Empire Network, I predicted the Bucs are going to upset the Eagles. A couple of weeks before that, I predicted the Bucs were going to give whoever didn't win the NFC East a game and probably upset them. So it would have been, if they played the Cowboys, I had the same prediction, and I think they would have got it done. But yeah, they beat the Eagles handily. So I want to give Baker some love, and the Bucs, who also have another opportunity this weekend against the Lions. Interesting matchup that between the Lions and the Bucs, one of those teams will be in the NFC Championship game. Crazy, but that's the NFL 2023-2024. So it's because few teams and players had a super wild card weekend. Some others didn't. Gotta start with Sirianni, the Eagles, the defense, the offense, the players. There was nothing good that came out of that game against the Bucs, where they ended up losing 32-9. And the game probably should have been even worse off. Mike Evans dropped a couple of deep balls that should have been touchdowns. To be honest with you, the Bucs should have hung 50 on the Eagles, which, I mean, 32-9 looks bad, but if there was a 50 in there, I don't know. I don't know how Philly would have handled that. But the offense looked like it had no direction. Defense were running into each other, letting guys run open downfield, turning like simple 3-5 yard outs into touchdowns because their pursuit was terrible. The angles were awful, running into each other once again. Tampa Bay took full advantage of it. You got to give them credit, like I said before, but a lot of questions are raised in Philly. I believe it's kind of leaning towards Sirianni keeping his job, coordinators leaving, which is a tactic that many teams use. But all that kind of means is you lost your coordinators from last season. Get that. You had coordinators this year. Looked awful. Get rid of them. Bring in new ones means now it's kind of your last shot. If it doesn't work again, the coach probably goes. And that's even if Sirianni doesn't end up getting fired anyway, but it's kind of pointing towards him staying. Something within that Eagles team is broken, lost. I don't know what it is, and they better figure it out because another season like this next year, and there's probably going to be some wholesale changes in Philly. But you could probably say maybe not the worst weekend. I don't know. Because the Cowboys did cowboy things. Had a good regular season. Won the NFC East. Get to the playoffs. A lot of hype behind them. And what do? Lay an egg. They get whipped by the Packers. And now, once again, questions about a Cowboys team underachieving. What do you do with the coach? So there was some news today that reportedly McCarthy's going to keep his job. That probably screams maybe Jerry Jones didn't get maybe some feedback he was hoping in terms of possible name that he wanted. I don't know. Maybe this is just posturing until Jerry Jones gets in front of certain coaches, and if they're interested, then a decision could come down on Mike McCarthy. But yeah, defense that has a lot of names on it. One in particular, Micah Parsons, who talked a lot this season. For them to show up the way that they did, looking disinterested, that's kind of a shame. Similar to what the Eagles did. Eagles players looked like they didn't want to be there. They were disinterested in playing, and this is a playoff game, which is crazy to me to think you have to worry about like effort and stuff like that in a playoff game. Yeah. So the Cowboys made it look prettier in the end. Dak's numbers look pretty, but if you watch the game, Dak was ineffective. He wasn't good. Nobody really was. This whole season, they moved on from Zeke. Pollard was supposed to be the guy. I feel like most people knew he wasn't going to be the guy. And now that their season's over, clearly Pollard's not a number one back. So there's questions there. What do you do with Dak? What exactly kind of player is Dak Prescott? Because I feel like eventually, I think this offseason, they got to make a decision on Dak in terms of a contract. And it's not just Dak. I think it's Dak, Parsons, and CeeDee Lamb are up for new deals. How much do you give those guys? If you give them the bag, then what does the rest of the roster look like? Do you lose key pieces? And even a disappointing season, as it was for the Cowboys this year, could it possibly be a little worse next year? Which if it is, and McCarthy is still there, he'll obviously be gone next year. But I don't know. Funny that coming into this, the Eagles limped in. So them losing was frustrating, and especially in the matter that they lost. It wasn't wildly, unexpected. I think the Cowboys' performance took a lot of people by surprise. Not me, even though I did pick the Cowboys to win it. But I felt like the Packers were going to cover because, the Packers are going to keep it close and make it interesting. As to whether or not the Cowboys do something late in the game with a boneheaded play, weird play call or something like that to lose it. But no, this one, the Packers are the better team. They're the more physical team, beat up Dallas. And now the Cowboys go into another offseason with questions. Cowboys fans go into another offseason wondering why this team couldn't get it done. And the vicious cycle of Cowboys mania will pick up again in the offseason. But those are my thoughts on Wildcard Weekend. Let me know yours. Who do you think was the biggest loser of Wildcard Weekend? And who had the best performance? Let me know in the comment section. Definitely appreciate it. Make sure you follow me on all the socials up here on your screen, especially the Discord. Would love to see some of you join that so we can talk sports in there. You can give me some suggestions on videos you'd like to see, all that good stuff. So with that, get ready for divisional round. I am, hopefully you are as well. And hopefully your team is still in it. If not, better luck next year. But be safe. God bless. And I'll catch you in the next video. I'm out. All right. Bye.